Yeah.
Can you get into, you have PDF since I moved in classroom.
Okay. After the death of my grandmother, I couldn't look down. Oh, did I read that? I already read that, right? How could he leave me with the guilt? What was he thinking? Is he thinking about me? Did I read that part?
Yeah.
Okay. My dad spent only 3 months in jail. I read that, yes?
Yeah, you're
Oh, I'm on the next one. Sorry, I got all confused. Okay. So we're talking about the people that got suspended. Yes, they wanted to see what happened. 2 people, African Americans, other was African American, the other Hispanic. The principal suspended after school. All right, here we go. After school, I walked to the bus stop by myself. I noticed that there were some Hispanics at the next bus stop where some African American people were waiting. When the bus arrived early, everyone got on the bus and another fight broke out. This was round 2. Some guy started swinging a stick that came from one of the art classes at school. There were at least 20 people from each side fighting on the bus. I got off and stood behind a bench. There were so many people on the bus that it started to rock back and forth. The bus driver told them she would call the police, so the African Americans got off the bus. After they were waiting, as they were waiting for the next bus, a Hispanic boy crossed the street to the bus stop. He didn't see that a fight had just ended, but he did see the angry tensions in the crowd as he walked past the bus stop. As he walked by the crowd, someone stepped in front of him and asked him, "What did you say?" The boy had said nothing at all. The boy didn't respond, but tried to walk past. The boy who was confronting him suddenly punched him in the face. He fell unconscious into the bushes then everyone rushed him at once. There were 20 angry boys against one. Someone grabbed him by the neck and dragged him out on the street. They started kicking and punching him in the ribs, face, and anywhere else that they could reach. Someone picked up a metal trash can and slammed it into his face. The traffic was being held up, and a bus arrived at the stop across the street. It stopped, and the bus driver got off to help the boy. He screamed, "Stop it, you punk!" Someone turned around and punched the bus driver in the face, and the bus driver ran to a store nearby and called the police. A lady got out of her car and also tried to help the boy, but got hit in the face for her efforts. As soon as the lady got back into her car, the police came and put an end to the fighting. The boy lay unconscious. His arms and legs and back were all broken. I watched as he was taken to the hospital and watched as the culprits were arrested. Why didn't I do anything to help him? I asked myself. Maybe it's because I was scared of the consequences. Most likely, I would have been mauled by the crowd. Even though I could have been hurt, I wish I had done something. If Miss G finds out that I just stood by and did nothing, she'd be really pissed at me. After all, I wasn't being very self-reliant. I just hope she doesn't find out. Diary 57. Dear Diary, today I finally grasped the true meaning of self-reliance. In class, Miss Gorell handed out a self-evaluation sheet. We were asked to write the letter grade we felt we deserved, then write a brief comment about why we thought we deserved that grade. Immediately and without hesitation, I wrote F. I have been having some trouble at home and have had to miss a lot of school lately. I just learned that my mom has a disease called lupus. All I know is that it affects her kidneys and makes her too weak to watch my younger brothers, or do anything for that matter. So instead of being at school, I'm usually at home helping Mama because she needs me. No matter what my reasons are, I thought Miss Gorell should fail me. I was sad and embarrassed, but a little proud that I had been honest. I sat in my chair, disappointed about how my situation had ended. Little did I know, it was in fact just the beginning. Miss Gorell approached me and asked to speak with me in the hallway. At first I thought she would drop me, but since I was already in what the other teachers called the dummy English, where else could I go? I figured she would simply give me the same speech the other teachers had given me. You're failing, and I know you're bright, so get it in gear, okay? Sometimes I just want to say, no shit, really, I'm failing. So how do I change that? But in light of the many times I've been blown or brushed off, I keep it to myself. I walked into the hallway, and immediately she turned to me and she said, "What is this?" She flashed my evaluation in my face. "Do you know what this means?" I didn't answer. I didn't know what to say. Just when I thought she was at her boiling point, she turned it up a notch by adding, "F you." That's what this is. It's an F you, it's a F you, and an F me, and F everyone who's ever cared about you. Immediately, our conversation became a road trip to hell with me riding shotgun. I was thrown off, confused, flabbergasted, and to put it simply, shocked. No one in my life has ever given me the facts so boldly. I had never had a pep talk like this. After my jaw seemed to wind itself back up into its proper place, what she said began to sink in. She went on to tell me that until I had the balls to look her straight in the face and tell her to F off, she was not going to let me fail, even if that meant coming to my house every day until I finished the work. I couldn't tell her off, so I just stood there with tears in my eyes. What she showed me that day is that a truly self-reliant person takes action, leaving nothing to chance and everything to themselves. She showed me that excuses will not bring about success, and that adversity is not something you walk with, but something you leap over. The only obstacles are the ones you allow. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. A truly self-reliant person finds his weakest link and strengthens it. I want to be a self-reliant person now and forever. Our class is reading the part in Catcher in the Rye where Holden Caulfield talks about his friend's suicide. Holden, who usually doesn't give a damn about anything or anyone, seemed to be really upset about the death of his friend. I never thought about the consequences or the effect that suicide would have on anyone else before. All I thought about was my own losing battle. I have a problem. For the past 2 years, I've been tormented by an illness that runs in my family. When I was 4, my mother was diagnosed as clinically depressed because of the chemical imbalance. Luckily, she sought help before it was too late. She received medical attention, was cured with the help of a drug treatment called I don't know how to say that. Amitriptyline, is that right? Now this illness and our family enemy has returned to claim yet another victim. Against my will, I have been taken prisoner and feel like I've been punished for a crime I didn't commit. My worst nightmare is now becoming my reality. Suicide is something that's always on my mind 24/7. There isn't a day that goes by without the enemy shooting suicidal thoughts into my mind. I am left injured and confused. Without notice, the enemy takes control of my mind and body, and I become its puppets. My thoughts, as well as my feelings, are recreated into my worst fears. I start crying and screaming for no reason, raging with unexplainable anger, and stored deep inside of me. Then I am left feeling worthless without any hope of living. I even tried to take my life once because I thought there was no other alternative. It was the day my mother and I got into a huge argument. Now that I think back, it seems so fake. Like one of those corny after-school television series specials. After the argument, not knowing what to do, I ended up in the kitchen. I felt a cold breeze as I entered. There I was, standing in the dark, holding a kitchen knife to my wrist. My heart began to beat faster and faster as I held up my arm. I pulled back my sleeve, exposing my wrist. My mind blacked out. I looked down to see that the knife had barely cut into my skin. The knife was too dull. Dear Diary, I'm going to tell you about a crazy mess I got myself into a couple of days ago. It all started with a month ago when I was assigned to read The Catcher in the Rye. I took one good look at the plain white cover and set it on my desk where it managed to collect dust. I thought of myself, what can this book teach me? I really wasn't up to reading this book, but somehow I managed to pick it up. Like usual, I read the ending first. After taking a look at the type of vocabulary J.D. Salinger uses, I was hooked. I thought, hey, this is my type of book. I instantly developed a respect for the author because of his unique style of writing, not to mention the fact that he didn't throw in some stupid preachy message. You know, an attempt to save today's youth. Those sugar and spice and everything nice type of endings make me want to barf. Well, I read the whole J.D. book. I cannot say that word, I'm sorry. Book. I was surprised how much I was able to relate to the main character, Holden. When Miss Gorell was trying to hype the book, she mentioned that our class was full of Holdens. Now I know what she meant. Like Holden, I think that everyone around me seems phony. I go to school with a bunch of conformists. Everywhere I look, I see duplicates of the so-called perfect pattern. The teachers are operators running on a mind-controlled factory. As for my parents, boy, do they think my every move is deliberate plan to irritate them. My parents speak to me like I'm a child, too wet behind the ears to know anything about life. I felt the need to escape. I was fed up with all of the rules forced upon me. I didn't want to play their crummy old game, so this is where my journey of breaking loose from the system began. Well, my attempt anyhow. One night, a couple of girlfriends and I were sitting around watching TV and talking. You know, girl stuff. Then the phone rang. It was my mother. She just called to see what time I'd be home. I swear she's a damn detective, always tracking me down, and I told her I would be home in an hour. That was that. Well, an hour passed, and I surely didn't feel like going home. Instead of heading home, my friends and I decided to take a drive to the beach. I don't know how, but somehow between my friend's house and the beach, we ended up in Las Vegas. I guess we must have taken a wrong turn somewhere. No, just kidding. That was the explanation I gave my mother. Unfortunately, she didn't buy it. The truth is my best friend had never been to Vegas, and it seemed like a good idea at the time. We arrived in Las Vegas to witness the sunrise from behind the casinos. Once in Las Vegas, we cruised around taking pictures and more pictures and even more pictures. And that's pretty much it. It's not like I could gamble. I'm only 16. Soon after that, I decided to call home. I was bored, and besides, I had been gone all night. I figured my mom would be a bit angry. Okay, so she was furious and even threatened to call the Las Vegas police and report my friend's license plate number. Well, that totally ruined our trip. After that heart-to-heart talk with dear old Mom, we decided to try something we hadn't the night before. Following an exquisite breakfast at one of Las Vegas's 5-star restaurants, Burger King, we headed home. Until Holden, and unlike Holden, I was spared from the institution, even though I provoked her by pleading, send me anywhere, somewhere, a rehab of sort, anywhere that isn't here. But there's nothing wrong with you, she insisted. And then I said, I just need to get away. I'm fed up with everything and everyone. The farthest she sent me was to my GD room. Dear Diary, tonight the wildest thing happened. I got offered a job from John too. I can't believe I'll be working for a millionaire. How I got the job was crazy. We were having a big party at Burundine with all of our parents. Miss G's really into family, and we're always having parties where all of our families get together and have a big love fest. Her dad, her stepmom, her brother are practically part of our family. Now, this party was another opportunity for our families to meet John too and thank him for all of his help. After the party was over, I asked him if he wanted to ride where his car was parked. It was only at 5 blocks away, but I didn't want him to have to walk late at night with his wife and his 2 kids in our neighborhood. With him being a millionaire and all, I was afraid he was going to get jacked. When I offered him a ride, I didn't think he'd actually say yes. When he did, I was like, damn, I froze because I have a 78 Oldsmobile, which can't touch his top-of-the-line Mercedes. When he entered my car, I felt really embarrassed because my car only has 1 seat in the front. The passenger seat was stolen. It was just a big old gap in the front. I didn't even have a radio. There's just a rear view mirror. My front window has a big-ass crack in it, too. Since it gets me from point A to point B, that's all that matters. When John 2 got into my car, he said, damn, this is comfortable. It feels like a limousine. He stretched out in my upholstery. My back seat is a far cry from leather, but he crossed his legs as if he owned my bucket. Then he said he wished that when he was my age, he could have driven a car like this one, but instead he drove a bicycle. Wow, he hadn't always been a millionaire like I thought. He actually earned his money through hard work. That really got to me. It was as if he was telling me not to just stay at my level and drive a $200 bucket, when I could also shoot for driving a Mercedes. When we reached his car, not only did he say thank you, but he also asked if I was interested in a job at his computer company. A job? I've never had a job before. He said I would learn something new, and now I can't wait to begin my new career and turn my life in a different direction. Dear Diary, in class today we discussed how double standards exist for men and women. We talked about how men can get away with whatever they want, but when a female does the same thing, then she gets deranged and even dissed. Miss G introduced the word called misogyny, and everyone in the work class was like, what? A guy in the corner even said, misogyny, did you say massage my pee-pee? And started laughing. Miss Gurrell structured a debate called Misogyny or Mayhem. She started by having us analyze the cover of a Snoop Doggy Dogg album with cartoon characters representing a male and a female dog. The male dog is on top of the doghouse, and the female dog is in the bottom with her ass hanging out. Throughout the cartoon, the female dog is called a hoochie and a hoe, and they even kick her out of the doghouse in the last illustration. All of the girls felt like this cartoon showed how men think they're on top of everything. I think it's about time men started respecting women. Instead of degrading women to the point where it's unbearable, I don't know why women allow men to brainwash them and use their bodies as objects instead of cherishing them as if they were treasures. But it's never going to change until women start respecting themselves more. If you were looking for someone to give you an example of misogyny, my family would be the prime illustration. My male cousins were advised, make sure you put a hat on that, Jimmy, or get as many girls as possible. Because I'm the only girl in my family, the only advice that I was given was to keep my legs closed. Therefore, when I lost my virginity, it was the end of the world. My boyfriend and I had been together for 2 years before we decided to have sex. Then, when it came time for that, what was supposed to be my special moment, I thought there would be caressing and passionate kisses. Instead, it was 5 minutes, bang, bang, bang. I looked at him after we were finished and asked him, "Is that it?" I thought losing my virginity was something that was worthwhile. Instead, I thought it was something I now regret. Now that I'm not a virgin and everyone looks at me as though I'm a tramp or a hoe, of course, if I were male, I would have been congratulated. I wish that things were different, but they aren't. Diary 62, Dear Diary. Today marks a turning point in my life. As soon as I walked into Miss G's second period class, I picked up The Color Purple, a novel written by Alice Walker. I began to read, kept reading, read some more, and found myself unable to put it down. It was so intense and complex. I read slowly and wondered who she was and where she had gone. I had never seen her before, had never been where she had been, yet in the midst of it all, Celie seemed strangely familiar. Life isn't easy for Celie, but she knew how to survive. She needed little to get by. Come to think of it, I know who Celie is. My Uncle Joe was unlike any other uncle. He was nice, caring, a good listener, understanding, very handsome, and best of all, he always knew just what to say whenever I was miserable. He was always there for me when I needed a warm, sincere, loving hug. Basically, he was my hero. I loved Uncle Joe with all of my heart. We lived in a very small apartment complex. So Uncle Joe, my younger brothers, and I all slept in the living room. Moonlight filled our tiny room, and the scent of freshly cut Christmas trees filled my nostrils. Life couldn't have been better, or so I thought. What is that? Who's touching me? Whatever it was, I didn't like it. It was Uncle Joe. What was he doing to me? Whatever it was, I wanted him to stop. I opened my mouth to tell him to stop, and the words wouldn't come out. It was as if a ton of bricks had fallen on me, knocking the air from my lungs, making me unable to speak. I felt his body right next to mine, and his breathing got stronger and stronger. He was touching me in places I didn't know could make me feel so dirty. I didn't move a muscle. I made my body as hard as a rock, and he slowly slid his hand up my shirt, caressing my back and the side of my breasts. He kept on trying to make me lie on my back, but he was unsuccessful. He got closer and closer. I could actually feel his skin touching mine. I felt his sweat, and his lips on my skin made me want to cry. A gigantic lump formed into my throat, and to this day, nothing makes it go away. Uncle Joe wasn't being rough with me, which made it hard for me to decide whether or not what he was doing to me was wrong. It tore me up inside to think he would actually do me harm. I was only a little girl, but I knew what he was doing was wrong. But why? Uncle Joe's the most righteous person I've ever met. After Uncle Joe invaded me, he got up for a drink of water. As soon as I heard the water running in the kitchen, my hatred for him grew. It was as if he was thirsty and exhausted from fulfilling himself and making me feel like the dirtiest being alive. I had to think fast, what to do. I got up to go to sleep on the couch before he came back. I didn't want him to do any more than he already had. Uncle Joe came back and took his tank top off. He saw me on the couch and asked me what was wrong. I looked at him for a few seconds. Nothing. I just can't get to sleep. I wanted to cry out. I wanted the entire universe to know I was scared, that I needed to be held, that I wanted to die, but who could I turn to? The only person I could talk to was hurting me. I sat there for a long time while Uncle Joe fell asleep. I didn't dare blink. The next morning, I heard my parents get up and get ready to leave for work. I'll never forget that feeling of hopelessness when my mother kissed me goodbye. Uncle Joe babysat my brother and me every day, but today was different, and he was acting as if nothing had happened. He was being his usual charming self. I was so angry. I couldn't think straight. I refused to do anything he wanted me to do. He acted like he wanted to hit me. My face got hot with rage, and I ran into the living room crying, yelling how much I hated him. It wasn't so much that he had changed the way I felt about myself. He had changed the only thing I believed in. He destroyed my belief in him. All he had to do was apologize, and once again I was charmed. His eyes seemed so sincere. He really believed he had done nothing wrong. The hours felt endless. My only relief was when my mom came home. Only then did I dare to take a shower, trying hard to scrub away the permanent filth. As soon as I got out of the shower, I pulled my mother into her bedroom and told her everything. My relationship with Uncle Joe had never been the same. Celie was violated, tormented, humiliated, degraded. Yet through it all, she remained innocent. Out of all of this horror, Celie was given courage. courage to ask for more, to laugh, to love, and finally to live. I'm certain who Celie is. Celie is and always has been me. And with this in mind, I will survive. And we will pick up here on Monday, Diary 63. Did we get through quite a bit? 108, 20 pages. That was good, right?